a proposal for you
Sure.
to just start talking as if starting in with the Kylegos instead of, us just shutting up
I
and just
know.
going straight to it.
Okay. All right. How long in the future?
I'm thinking it like just like we're having a conversation, like maybe it's 5 years from now, and I'm saying, Scott, remember when we just started doing this and all these things happened, and then yeah, and I watched I watched what happened with you, and then this happened with me, and just going back and forth and just doing it for however long.
Okay.
Does that
Yeah,
sound fun?
that sounds fun. Do we want to just sort of chime in conversationally?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
Rather
cool.
rather than timing it and staying quiet and
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. I'm game. I'm up for it. It's
okay,
good. Good.
cool.
All right.
Well, I'll just jump in. Um, yeah, I remember when we started Kylegoing, and I know for me, I felt so just kind of untethered and not knowing what I was doing, and I had so many projects in the works, and nothing was going right. I mean, the projects were great, but they weren't going anywhere. And then we started Kylegoing, and like I'd been doing a lot of things to move stuff along for years, but something shifted in there. And like within the third or fourth week, I got even more quiet, which wasn't my intention when we started Kylegoing. But one night, uh, I thought, I'm going to take January and maybe some of February off. And I just felt just all this relief
Hmm.
happen. And that was just like in the first month. And I had no idea where that was going to take me. But, here we are 5 years later. We know where it took both of us.
Most
And
definitely.
yeah, what was that like for you in that first month?
Well, I think that I kind of took your lead too because I'm starting about January and that time I started really I was throwing a lot of things against the wall just to see what would happen, and I realized probably a little later than you, but that's all right. That I didn't have to push it so much, and I decided that I would just kind of focus on what was a kind of like my focus of what I did for work, and then fill my time up with things that really brought me just more joy. And so for me, it was really um, about the fourth time that we start Kylegoed, I was really in the midst of letting go of a bunch of stories, and it was really hitting me. And so that was when I realized, okay, this is fine. And um, yeah, I started really just focusing time and energy more on meditation and more on feeling what I was feeling. And so that really solidified the meditation. Now that I look back at all of that and I was like, oh, maybe if I'd only known that that was the key to doing those things, that doing the meditation work would just actually unlock more time for me. Back then I thought that meditation was a luxury that I had to schedule, but actually meditation now is something that I do that actually helps me to unlock time. And I realized after I meditate, I think, no, I don't need to call that person back. It's fine. Or they'll just email me. I know they'll do that. Or I trusted more after I would meditate now. And so it's as if that space gives me time. And it's feels good to have that time now, and it's just a part of
Yeah.
life. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
find that too?
Sure. And I could see it in you. I could see just the increased peacefulness, and
Mm.
it just continued to increase. And I look back at, I know for me, look back at just that way I was getting through life that was just like trying to take pieces, put them together, and the effort that went into that is just amazing looking back at it now. You know, you don't know you're in it when you're in it. You don't know how fragmented you are when every day you're gathering up all the pieces and saying, "Here I am. This, I've got them all put together. Believe me."
Oh yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
too. So it was like it was almost a chore to kind of like put on your persona,
Mhm.
because you wanted to, there were like external goals outside of you that, whether it was making money or attracting people to what you did, or, and then it also just took away from the joy of what I do now. And what I do now is that I think I made a decision to show up a little less, but then when I did show up, I was incredibly present and I was incredibly focused. And, I created lots of videos back then that turned into, things that people really enjoyed. And when it felt right, I turned them into like products that paid me, that I put out that were affordable, and they paid over and over again. And then when I felt the time to create was happening again, I would do that again. And
But
so
how was it? How was it looking back now? How was it like? At what point did you realize that you were like that persona was doing all of this instead of just really like when did you meet Scott?
I think I met Scott probably in the spring when I got out and I got to be in nature a lot more, and I got to um, go camping more, and I got to really, just experience nature again after I started Kylegoing. And, I think I started meeting the real Scott, back when we started like Kylegoing, but I think I really opened up when the weather changed and the season changed. And, and then it was tougher in the summers to commit to meditating because it's so active and everything is so in bloom, and you want to do on the other side of things. So it's then life becomes like you got to show up for recreation, and so that was an interesting time too. But I think I had to just go through it all, and I had to go through all that to come to a different landing place, and where life just looks so different, and life looks peaceful, and I'm the average human being. I don't have everything together every day,
Right.
but I'm not ashamed of it, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel it, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. Um, if I'm broke, I'm broke. If I'm having a lot of money, I have money. Then I share it. Or it's it's a better way now of just sort of accepting myself after this time has passed, and just not just being there in the present and understanding that this is a situation. I don't. It's hard to explain from the years past. I think I was just more. Um, yeah, I was also in the throes of like feeling youthful after losing the weight back then,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was a new feeling. And as I've settled into a lot of this stuff over the last few years, it's just kind of like that's life, and
Right.
I don't have to really compare myself anymore. But
Yeah.
the meditation actually gives me more time now, and it probably gives you more time now too. Just having that time to slow down and just to cut it away, and where you're not even on the computer, you're not even looking at things. You just carve that time out, and
Mm-hmm.
Amazing what you can accomplish. After
Yeah.
or not accomplish if you don't want to accomplish anything. If you can even set your intention in a day, like, I'm going to meditate as much as I want to do. And then whatever happens during the day is what happens. And I'm grateful for that.
Right.
So that,
Yeah, I started out so almost directing my meditations with questions. And so going in with an intention, and you hear that that's kind of the way to do it in some ways, or in some places that's the message. Well, go in with an intention, and but eventually, I just like Rita showed up, and she was wearing this 1940s housewife with the hair rolls and the apron and everything. And she was like, look what you've reduced me to. And, that was, I certainly wasn't asking for that when I went into that meditation. But there she was. And she started shedding this whole costume and said, listen, I got some things to say. And so the first thing she said is, there are no more questions, only answers. And I said, okay, good. And that just opened up this whole awareness of how many times I was asking questions. And we do as entrepreneurs, creative people. Well, how am I going to do this? I want to make this thing. Then what do I do with it? Who wants it? Just these endless questions that we can't have answers to, really. And
it was, for me, sorry.
Go ahead.
For me, it was the time when I detached from all of those unknowns, and I really reached from my heart about what I would say on video and what I would say and do with what I would design. And I would just reach in and just say, this is what's coming out of me right now, and it doesn't matter what my questions are or what my insecurities were. When I really tapped into that finally, that was when it seemed like the magic started happening, and like things just started flowing from that. And it was tough to sustain for a while. But yeah, I wish I would have had some sort of a dramatic Scott showing up like that, and look what you've made me. That's a big wake up call for me. But mine was a little slower, and my dreams were what really helped me along. I was like having lots of dreams of folks who were like tennis players, like professional women's tennis players would show up in my dreams. And just, like I was dining out with Petra Kvitova from Czechoslovakia at a hotel once. And I was, and so it was very interesting. And that was the time when the Australian Open was on, and I wasn't really watching it. And I was like, oh, it's like your love, your passion, and you need to like tap into that. And because and I find that I have to now, because when I'm in a space that I am doing and observing things that are passionate for me, that feeds me. It's not a luxury. It's food.
Mm-hmm.
Not something I do with free time. It's food, so that I can show up and so that I can be myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lesson that flipped. It was, and now, and still, 5 years from now, the world, society, they put you in these little buttons and whatever. And every once in a while I slip back and I was like, okay, Scott, you're not feeding yourself. And, I've even put up posters everywhere of anything that like says with images about feeding myself and reminders. I had to do reminders back then too, just put Post-its on my mirror that say feed yourself first with your passion.
Right. Well, that's interesting for somebody who went through a dramatic weight loss. That's really what you needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the weight went away so that I could feel, the excess stuff probably went away so that I could, fill it back up with positive stuff that would, be um, efficient fuel for me,
Hmm.
rather than stagnant fuel.
Yeah. Well, that was really a lesson for me to hear that in the Kylegos, because when we're doing things that aren't working, that maybe aren't healthy, it's really from a place of trying to do good for ourselves. So it's not like it's not like a flaw. It's it's just a misunderstood attempt to do the right thing, and that made me somewhere in there in that first year. That made me look at the things that weren't working and how I was going about trying to make them work, and the reasons I I was trying to fulfill, the thing I was trying to fulfill in trying to make, say, sell a painting, or um, find students for my class, or things like that. When they aren't working, apparently I'm doing something that's not working. But what is the reason I'm doing it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can totally identify with that. I think I was doing a lot of the same thing of just like grabbing things to see what they would work. And, it was out of desperation. I like, you know, needed to make more money constantly just because
Mm-hmm.
I would make money, then I'd have to pay rent, then I'd have to make money and pay my rent. And then just little things like that, just expenses. And, eventually, like I took 6 months and, um, I put myself in storage for 6 months at one point and just stayed with my folks, just
Mm.
to try out, back then. And, it was great.
Ah.
It stretched me.
Was
You
it
know,
scary, or did it?
oh my gosh, it was scary. And it was, a lot of my friends they didn't think I was ever going to come back. And, I didn't know if I was going to come back. I didn't know if, but it was, I had to reach out, and I sometimes had to kind of just accept a situation and say, maybe I just need to like unplug, unplug from this type of, whatever. And I put myself in storage and I subleased my place so that I can come back after 6 months. And then I
Mm.
decided if things didn't work out and I didn't want to come back after 6 months, I wouldn't have to. I would just sort of, find another subleaser or do whatever. But
Mhm.
but I came back, and, it was kind of a nice sabbatical. I saved up a ton of money. I
So
paid off.
you sort of you quit.
Yeah, I walked away for a little bit, but I worked I still had web clients, and it doesn't
Mhm.
matter where I live when I had
Yeah.
did that. So, but I stepped out for a while of this, you know, um, I wouldn't say, I mean, we're all a responsible adult, but like, this society of, paying your rent, paying your this and utility bills, and it was just, yeah, I needed to unplug. I found a way to unplug for a while, and it
Mm-hmm.
was great. And, so it was scary, but it was really great, and I realized that I needed that time down there just because it was food, it was fuel, and it
And
centered me.
when was that?
It was probably, a year after we started Kylegoing, because by that time I was really in that zone of like, you have always had the luxury of finding things faster than I did, but like a lot of times I know that even in my experience it takes me a little longer, and I tend to like really thrive on the times where I really feel my story leaving me. And it's cathartic, and I almost feel like I need that. I love and thrive now of being put against the edge.
Mm, that's important.
That's the thing, is like, it's I don't fear it anymore. I used to fear it, and I would just, feel
And avoid it?
and
Would you
avoid
avoid it?
it
Okay.
and avoid it, and then I would bawl and complain and bargain, just like you're going through grief and delay and all of these things, and but yeah, now it's kind of like, okay, even in love, if I'm put up against the edge, it's like I'm not afraid of that edge,
Mm-hmm.
relationships or love or being compassionate or even my creativity. It's, if
How are how are people responding to that? Like you say you're interacting with somebody and they're on their edge, and you feel that edge, but you're going, okay, let's go there. How does that happen?
it's that's a great question. Is you can't let yourself be. I think maybe I have some way of letting folks know that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are some times where, you put that out there that you are not afraid of, like, the edge or losing something or uprooting yourself, and that's scary because you're showing other people that if they did that, their story would die,
Mm-hmm.
and that's scary for them. But actually, like, a few other friends and a few other people too made some similar leaps because they felt inspired. I mean, smaller leaps probably. They felt inspired to take a little of a little unplug, which was fun. And I never knew
Well,
that you could inspire anyone to do that. I was just doing my own stuff.
right. It's just occurring to me that we have words for people who will just up and leave. You know, that's like a negative thing. Just up and leave. You can't depend on them more.
Yeah,
But in my experience, we're becoming even more dependable because you know exactly where you stand. When I'm with Scott, I know where I stand. I know that, yeah, things might change, but or he might make a plan that I can't go down or don't want to go down, but that's great. That's like he's dependable in that way. And and other people, or well, yeah, the vast majority of people are still so locked into their stories that it's it always comes to these weird paradoxes that you know they're going to stay there, but it's not dependable. And I don't exactly know how to explain that because maybe because I can feel that it's not authentically what they want or what's in their soul.
right.
And so that doesn't feel dependable to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's a different place to be a little more authentic, and it's well, a lot more authentic. It's a totally different place and a totally different mindset. And so, but I found a lot of community other places, and so I made some really great friends, and we both reached out, and we've learned about the folks who may never come on board with our new stories, who still kind of think we're crazy, but they hang around every once in a while because they're curious, and they'll email you and ask you little questions, and that's kind of fun and it's amusing, and because I feel like, but I've also trusted now that everyone is in their process and I don't have to. I just do what I do, and I somehow, with a few folks, it just sort of shows them possibility. I don't have to evangelize a type of life that I'm doing. I just sort of do it. That was something that the Kylegoing earlier on just sort of taught me. I don't need to be in that ego to tell other people what to do, or to say I've healed and I'm changing, so this is an example of what you can do too. It's not my place, and I like being that. I loved that from the very start, that I wasn't going to be in the business of me justifying what I do or telling someone else to justify what they do. I was just going to live life, and if people wanted to come along, they would come along, and if they wanted to think I'm crazy, they had every right to think I was crazy, and I could embrace being crazy. So that was kind of fun, just detaching from that, which was very different from me. I have a different way of being a coach now. It's almost like I'm an uncoach for folks. I realize too that there's a process of coaching, and if people want that, they'll pay me to do that. But it's almost this uncoaching. It's mostly what we do with the Kylegoing and the talking about freeing ourselves from, and and just opening up to what feeds us in love, and tapping into that love zone, as I call it, that creative love zone that you can ride. And that doesn't matter your financial situation. It doesn't matter your, what point you are in life. You can be 90 years old and nearing the end, or you can be 20 with your eyes wide open. Those are the.
I had difficulty explaining that what you said is just true, that it doesn't matter your financial situation. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You can have that sense of peace. And so even into the end of the first year, I always had difficulty explaining, for a way for anyone to understand. And so I gave that up and just started living it. So show, don't tell, right?
Yeah.
I'm a writer, so. And, even though I'm a writer, I have difficulty finding the words for this greater existence.
And yeah.
So somewhere in there, maybe, fairly early on, but it just kept sinking in further and further and further, was that this physical body is just the vehicle. It's not me. What's going on with it is, it's what people see, but it's not the engine driving everything.
Right.
And so the activity started coming from, like, it really sank in, and I started living it, that I would start first. My soul would lead. My soul would go out there, do what it needs to do. And then I would do the physical, whatever needed to happen in my studio, or in the kitchen, or in life, or on the planet life.
Yeah.
But leading with my soul, man, that was so much started getting done that you can't point to it.
Right. It's that the soul is not in the body's in the soul. For years. And leading with your soul is a stretch. It's like you're stretching farther beyond. You stretch to everything that you can see. And it's different than reaching out and doing everything that you can think of. It's a stretching your soul to the things that you can see on the horizon. It's hard to explain in words, but I've learned that there's always longing, and that's a great thing, and loving the longing, and loving the remembrance, and loving the people and the things that have passed away and gone away and shed from yourself, and forgiving your old stories. That was huge work for me.
Mhm.
Forgiving my old stories and thanking them, but yet, you know, not letting them, well, appreciating them, but yet forgiving them and forgiving myself for, denying my soul.
Mhm.
And that
But
for you.
once you're in this new place, you're just like, oh, how did it take me this long?
Yeah.
Why
Well,
would I resist this for so long? It's ridiculous.
I did find out, realize really early on when we started Kylegoing, that things started manifesting quickly and sometimes faster than I wanted them to, and so there was a period of resistance a little bit after that, and then just a total acceptance of, yeah, things when things surprised me, there was a little out of my comfort zone previously. I'd say, yeah, this is part of this manifesting process that's happening now that I'm tapping into something new, and I
Right.
have
I
to just
remember back then you had
accept it.
you had a new 2005 car and you were excited about that, but now look what you're driving.
Oh, I know. Well, and then still, I'm always like, I don't care. It's a car. I'm still frugal, but I like what I do, and I like where I go with it. And the RV shows always are fun. And yeah, I used to read tarot cards for folks in this tarot community, and people still like my readings. But I am more into like the folks who are nature lovers and who are more into the kind of like the new age stuff that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about tarot and the cards. It's about um, a real feeling of like them grabbing the parts of themselves that are pure love. And
Mm.
that's I found out early on that that's not exactly what the folks in the tarot and the card reading community
Mm.
are all about at all.
I
So
see.
so it's so I take my tarot cards to RV parks and have amazing conversations with people.
Oh, cool.
While I
People
teach.
traveling are more open.
Yeah, I do find that too. They're very open. They share stories.
Mm-hmm.
They and I think, and I've even had conversations, long ago, like, because they have seen the world. And when you get a conversation with me about, because the trees have seen them so much, because the land has seen them so much and taken care of them so much, they have a more trust that their soul is wide open already, so no one can really hurt them, so
Mm-hmm.
they can be honest with their story, and they can accept other people's stories even if they're a little different than theirs. But they have this sense, and I have this too now, no one can really destroy my soul or hurt my soul. The only person who's capable of that is me. And so it's travelers and wanderers, wanderlusters, they're like good company,
Yeah.
incredibly good company for me. And I feel like wherever I go, I can make a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and it's much different than when I used to just stick to my crowd and define myself by what I did. By, I'm a web designer, or I'm a coach, or I'm a this, this. So I tell people, oh, I'm a traveler and I live in Missouri, but I'm mostly a traveler,
Mm.
and that people are like, oh. But to the folks in the RV parks, they're like, yep, we are too. It's and I can go to the most back country. There's an RV place by my folks' house that it's so funny. It's only like 20 miles away from where I'm going to be living, but I'll take my camper there and I'll camp out there for a week because there's a catfish place right next to it, and people just cackle, like, where do you live? I'm like, I live 20 miles away. Like, oh, and I said, I just like meeting people and I like being outside and outdoors, and I'll spend a week here, just and if I need to go back home, I'll go back home. But
Well, it occurred to me that when, when people say, well, what do you do? And you're giving them the thing that makes you money. You're giving them the answer of the thing that makes you money.
mhm.
Saying I'm a traveler you're inviting questions or curiosity. You're not, yeah, there's no asking um, for them to give you anything.
Right.
You know, if I say I'm an
Right.
artist, that could mean a variety of things. It could be a sense of ego, or it could be, let me show you my paintings, or things like that. But to say you're a traveler is just, I'm sure some people just go, oh, and walk away, but okay, that's good.
Sure. And there's also that aspect of astral traveling too when I read cards for people and I talk
Oh,
about that. And that's another opening for them. So it's how I kind of get those other ideas for people to kind of open up to like a cosmic nature and cosmic soul nature. You know this from me for a while, but when I talk about being a traveler, I'm like, okay. And then I talk about dreams being travel. And
mm-hmm.
I talk about, our visions being travel and this astral travel. And so I talk about the cosmos and how our sun travels. And um, so
Yeah,
in a way, it also kind of helps me connect with my soul because my soul is traveling through time and space and dimensions. And as we age or even as we die from this planet, we are traveling and we're still travelers. So I feel like I've also connected into a cosmic occupation.
mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
this is something that I learned from you, because I was being quiet, but I did have this feeling that I was traveling way more than the, I don't know, 15 or so countries I've been to on the planet. But in these years of really being pretty much at home, and,
mhm.
and being very quiet, I did loads of traveling, and I didn't have a slideshow to sit people down and show. Luckily for them, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I had like to convince my family or some people, extended family, that like what I was doing was not going to end up like that Into the Wild movie where we're
uh,
in Alaska and found dead in a bus. So
yeah.
um, that was kind of the people stereotype for me
Hmm.
for a while. Oh, he's into the wild. Just go watch that movie, and that's what Scott's doing.
Right.
I mean, no, Scott's not secluding himself from people. He's probably more connected to people than he ever has been.
Right. And,
So.
but you taught me that just, you know, within the first couple of years was just, yeah, I'm a traveler. And um, the people around me who know my daily routine, which doesn't look like traveling, they had a hard time going, what? And so I had to let go of trying to convince anyone that that's what I was doing. And um, and it really helped me kind of shed all those other identities as well. So that
Mhm.
was,
Yeah, and it's amazing how some of the folks in your life just sort of drifted away that weren't serving you either. You didn't have to tell them to go. You didn't have to force anything. You stepped into you, and that was enough, and that was permission. And yeah, so that was a very gentle way of doing that, and it's very inspiring just to say, step into yourself, and you'll be amazed what comes to you, and you'll be amazed at what, like, it's almost like there's a cosmic drain and a cosmic funnel.
oh, but believe me, that was the hardest choice. Like, telling someone to go is way easy.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just trusting, okay, you're telling me to just go, just be more me, and that will take care of everything. That does not sound like a game plan of any sort, let alone a good one.
Well, and there's always like times where you really do need to be assertive and frame it as a choice. So this is what I'm feeling, and
Hmm.
I'm going to continue on doing this, what I'm doing. And so you do have a choice before you, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
that's
Right.
a way that I've learned over the years to let people have permission that they can either come along with you or not. And sometimes it's heartbreaking, but you have to, like, it's like a breakup or anything. You have to just bless that, and you never know. Things come back around, and people never really leave us. You actually give them a permission to shed their old story as well, and develop a new story. It's
Mhm.
you're on, and um,
And
long
letting
ago,
go of your need to direct their interpretation of what
yeah,
happened.
yeah, and just to say, I'm giving you a gift of creating a new story right now, and you may not realize it, but I hope that you take this gift and create your own new story, because I'm loving creating a new story for me. That's that's how I've, like, dealt with a breakup since
Mm-hmm.
my first divorce.
Yeah.
So I've you know, and I probably won't have. I'll probably do it again and again a few times, just because as we grow and we change, we honor those things no matter what our age, and just to let people.
Well, even when you found your soulmate, it wasn't all rosy and
No,
easy. There were challenges and things to work out, and
and even the vast
maybe some
distances sometimes.
separations here and
Yeah,
there,
separation and
kind of going this way
mhm.
instead of this way.
Right.
That all became part of the relationship and the commitment to each of you staying or becoming more yourselves
Yes.
and then becoming more together.
Yes. And yeah, and just feeling those gifts of that. Just that has been the key. And it's just they don't even have to be quote evolved or whatever. It's just this, you have to be, and it's also just being open to love yourself, and just loving another person, um, and realizing that their experience at the time is also a gift. Nothing in this temporal reality is ever permanent. Even if we are together with the love of our life until we die, chances are one of us will die before the other, and one of us will have to experience that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's you whether that pain is delayed until we're 90, 99, 125 for you.
Mm-hmm.
um, um, we can't we the pain and the happiness are joined, they're linked, and as long as we're on this earthly plane, we have that pain and happiness together. And the pain is like, just like our old story is leaving, and
Yeah. So I'm curious now,
the
just
new story is coming in.
yeah, this new story, we're still on the planet. We
Yep.
still need this energy that this society runs on, which is money. So
Mm-hmm.
how did that shift for you to where it wasn't something you chased, it was something that you allowed to receive, that the funds started flowing in
Yeah,
and
I
out
think.
both ways?
Yeah. Well, even the years before, I had this idea, moving into my parents' place, that was all already paid for, something, a legacy of my father. So I probably have a different story than some. So I give thanks every day that I could have done that, and that I'm doing that. So that burden is out. But there are always those things. A water heater goes out, you've got to replace it, and
Mm-hmm.
um, But it was also a different pace of life. I started helping my mother with her church job. People, while I was there for those 6 months, I started helping my mother with her church job, and so other people in the church recognized who I was. They knew me from the past that I sang, but then like other people started to recognize that I was like helping out in a real different way. And so now when I come back, I tend to fix people's Macs, and they just came to me because I would always fix my mom's Mac at the church, and I've always had a secret plan, and I'm going to make it their idea. I always had a secret plan to step into her job when she's no longer wanting to do it. So, and that's like, that would commit me to 10 hours a week. I'd set my own schedule, of course, Monday, to be the church admin. And I've always secretly wanted that for years. My mother knew that I secretly wanted that. I just said, don't tell anyone, but we'll make it their idea. So it wasn't really manipulation, but it was a kind of a fun joke. And I can see that happening. It's almost like
it's sort of like leading with your soul.
Mm-hmm.
You set your soul to go make that happen.
Yep. And it was more out of doing. If I wanted to be that, I would do it first without regard for the money. And that was I had to let go a lot of stuff. Like just like you did, you had to just learn to like say, if I want to paint, I want to earn money from my paintings. I'm going to put something on my easel, and I'm going to do it, and I am going to give it away to someone first, and then that's going to create the energy to come back to me. And I had to learn that too early on, that giving away a lot of free things just for the freeness, and that I was out of love, and it was out of a genuineness and then when I went to my parents' place again, did all these things, I was just totally like, people were clamoring to have me back. They're like, when are you coming back? Because we'll find you a job. If you need a job, we'll find that for you. And so that was like, it was easier, so much easier than me trying to apply myself in this sea of people who are so caught up in this impersonal way of living. And I had to kind of go full circle. In some ways, I wish I could have gone full circle faster, but I went through my own process. So,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The money part is another one that's difficult to explain until you go through it. Giving, you give it away. Well, how do you make money?
Yeah.
And again, there's not something to point at. There's not a process. Step one.
Well, from that early on, and then I commissioned you to paint my parents' pond, and now everyone who comes to their house wants one, and not all of them bite on it, but everyone wants one, and but it's
or they have a place that it's their favorite place, and they want a painting of that.
Yeah. So it's that kind of a thing. It's we both had to kind of put ourselves out there in a new way and in a courageous way, to throw it all away, just to say, I am just going to show me in this authentic way of like, this is my gift. I had to but I even sang more online, and I sang more with my videos. I sang more and showed up at my parents' church. I sang more in the community. It's just like, there was a point early on when I was like, this giving is exhausting. Admittedly, I was like, oh, this is so exhausting to give and give and give. That was also my ego, but then there was a joyous exhaustion that I found at times. So that was when I went to bed exhausted, and or when I stayed up just to make that one more video, just to get it right, and to talk about what I really was on my heart. And I knew I was just beat and tired, but I went to bed, and it was like, this was good work, and this was good stuff. And those times were when things started coming to me, when people would I don't know. I don't know what if appreciation was, but and then I could just put out saying, and if you need a coach to help you through some of these things, I've got spots open for this. And then they would fill. Because by that time I built a list, and you had too, and I took a little painting of yours on the road in the RV, and so it was like always just this continuous flow of little baby steps until we each got thousands of people on our list just magically. We're like, how did that happen? It was like just throw something out, and then all of a sudden it was like fishing, and you caught a fish. I remember the first time I was like, oh my gosh, this works. And
well, in that time that you were spending with these people your parents' age, you could see how much they enjoyed your singing. You ended up finding these gigs to go to assisted living places and give concerts, and it paid, plus it fed you.
And literally, they would feed me meals.
Right. And bring you cookies.
Bring me cookies and bring me food. And, thank goodness my father helped build that community center gym that I could like go in there for free. Every time. Thank goodness. Yeah. I mean, he helped build it. And so they were members and they were on the board. And so I've got a key to that gym anytime I want. Thank goodness, because there's food here. There, I believe it because my folks said they never retired really when they moved to this little community in northern Missouri near Kirksville, between Kirksville and Fairfield, Iowa. And they've never retired. They've been busier than they could ever imagine. And I believe it. And because, it's like that exhaustion of, well, I'm going to help, Ann Luther, her son is here, and Michael Folk is here to play piano, so I've got to sing with him. And then Connie, the organist, wants to practice something else. And then Harlow, the dentist, this is actual real people I'm talking about. Harlow, the dentist, is doing a concert chorale. He's 86 years old, but he still directs his Mark Twain singers, and he's bringing over the tenor part for this. It was fun, but it was tiring, and I went to bed and sometimes I collapsed. It was great.
Yeah.
And I do realize that these folks are getting along in their age, and they're not going to be here when I'm their age. And that's both a sad and but I have stories. Oh my gosh, I have stories. And I take them on the road with me about this little town. And so people, like you said, they come they're like already in line when I get the Airbnb ready. They're like, you tell us when you have that ready, we're going to come visit you, and it'll be nice to have showers. So, so that's kind of the life. And I just, 5 years ago, I never would have expected I'd step into it.
Right.
But things just started tumbling with like the Kylego and touching into what was really in my heart. And and then even 5 years before that, I was a different person. And it's amazing what we can do when we just sort of center and meditate and give ourselves time and feed ourselves with the things that are passionate for us. And I even recognized that earlier on during our Kylego things. And I think there was a period where I was frustrated, a little depressed, and a little things because I saw that it was an exercise daily to like stop projecting it in the future. Because you see that and you have this really strong longing. And so it was a huge exercise to stay in the moment when you weren't there. And some reasons, and sometimes it's that struggle. There's always like a money struggle, but I seem to find a way, month to month, hand to mouth kind of thing, until I just unplugged and gave me an opportunity. But
I used to say that I was like Jesus with the loaves and the fishes. It just somehow it worked out, but now it's just so reliable that I don't even. It's almost like getting a paycheck these days. It's that
Yeah,
reliable.
that's really a good feeling. It,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we also realize that, you know, money is a. I mean, you don't necessarily have to feel like money is a bad thing. You can actually feel like this is a good energy that like it allows me to also show up for other people. It allows me to um like if there's a bill I want to pay, it's that doesn't feel like a tax to me. It feels like, oh, here's part of this privilege I get to live my life.
Hmm.
So it's
Right.
this is the energy I'm sending, and um, so I did like what Louise Hay said, blessed my bills and blessed my life, and
Right.
whenever it came in, and I could hand it off. It was a blessing of an exchange, and
Hmm.
you know, it hurts when you have to get new tires on the camper, or yeah, or you know, just little things, but it's amazing what other people will do for you. And if you ask, that's just the thing, is asking, always asking for support, because we're so proud as Americans and people. And in this culture, it's hard to, I had to get over this idea
I
of
have to
asking.
say, I have guys calling me, and it's like it's like this thing that used to be so difficult for me to um, sorry, not now. And that's just the way it is now. And
Yep.
I would used to fret about oh God, they're gonna be so mad if I don't answer the phone. Oh, what if something awful's happening and they need me? And now it's yeah, it's a peaceful it, and there's no fretting about the response. And it's almost like because I'm peaceful, they just go, oh, well, she must be busy. Okay.
Yep.
And that's kind of the same thing with how it was with money. It was the the peacefulness. Like we went through our difficulties with money, but that just set us that proved in a way that was evidence that we could live on whatever what it, I became willing to let go of how much was coming in or how it was coming in, what I was doing to make it come in,
Yeah.
or that it had to come in. I had to let go of that need for it, I guess, and to be totally willing to reorganize because it, the evidence was there that I could make things work one way or another. And it wasn't even me making things work. It was being provided one way or another. And so it was almost like, well, 2 weeks after I stopped caring about money was when it all just started flowing in and out, in and out.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing how that happened? That happened with
Yeah.
me too. When I
Yeah.
just said, well, this is the situation. I'm not going to worry about it. You know, and then I took like little odd jobs every once in a while just because they felt good. I'm like, okay, maybe I should do this. I'm kind of bored. I'll do this. I'll do some massage therapy here, or I'll do this here, or and when that didn't feel right, it didn't continue, but um, it worked out. The universe kind of like still supported me in some way, and um, I realized that it was just my own limitation of like me projecting in the future of lack. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
had food, I had like a roof. I could always have gone to my folks' place whenever I would have wanted to. Um,
Well, I found it was part of that really understanding, knowing that the physical body was not me, and that's sort of on the same plane as the money.
mhm.
that physical world stuff. So regardless of what happens with the money, with my body, with the house, with politics, I'm going to continue on one way or another. And so
Yes.
what's to worry about?
Yes. It's what amazing humans we are. We create things to worry about in our present, in our future, in our past. It's like I still look at animals and dogs and think how they don't worry about what does it mean if I beg for this piece of food? They think less of me if I beg for a treat. Or, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so embarrassed if I eat this treat with my mouth open. I think that I wrote a blog post long ago about like, let's start thinking like a dog and stop beating ourselves up. So
Yeah, right.
about these things, and and just give love, receive love, take naps,
Mm-hmm.
you know, feast when we need to feast, sleep when we need to sleep.
Well, that
Go
just what you said, give love, receive love. That pretty
Yeah,
much covers everything.
go on runs and walks in nature.
Yeah, if you're
Um,
not receiving love in a particular situation,
mhm.
go somewhere else and receive love from the trees or
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's um, and like it's really that simple, but yeah, we make things so complex.
Right.
It's um, you know, it's that interestingly multidimensional fractal layer of our brain and our consciousness that allows us to be this way. And
Mm-hmm.
but yet it's this lesson that we are allowed to be that way so that we can learn this lesson that's very valuable and continue to learn a lesson that's very valuable. Like you said, that we're infinite and that we go on, and that this body is a shell, and it's we can create our body just like our mind. We can choose to let it be a temple or choose to let it be a limitation on our idea of who we are and what we ourselves. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all oh, deep.
Yeah. Just did it for
Kidding me?
no. No.
That was fast.
I know.
Oh my gosh, that's a great conversation style. I like that a lot.
Yeah.